Hello and welcome to what is now the third episode from ICB TV of the software sessions. Today we're going to be looking at AutoEntry and Receipt Bank, two data capture and automation tools that more and more bookkeepers are using to become more efficient with their work. So we're going to be looking at both of those two tools, and we're not asking the software providers for their opinion. Absolutely not. We are going straight to the heart of the matter, and we're going to be asking our very own ICB members. So let me please introduce to you the totally fantastic Lynn Watson. Hello Lynn, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you today?
I'm very well. So Lynn is actually joining us from Italy.
Yeah,
what are you doing at, you're usually based in Romford, is that right Lynn?
I am, but I've come out here to find an apartment so that I can work here as well as in the UK. So,
there we go. A real poster girl for online remote working and automation, I would say. We'll talk to you more about that in a sec. And let's also welcome the totally wonderful Ellie Appleby. How are you doing, Ellie?
I'm fab, thank you. I'm in a slightly less glamorous location than Italy, rainy Sheffield, but yeah, very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Rainy Sheffield. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. We are super lucky to have you. And we're also broadcasting live on Facebook. And I wanted to just say to everybody who's watching, please do feel free to leave your comments in the chat or post a question in the Q&A. I will do my best to get round them as far as my brain can stretch to it. But if we miss any of your questions, we will try and respond to them afterwards. So without further ado, I think, and let me know obviously viewers if you disagree, but one of the most useful things I find, or interesting things about these sessions, is to have a little sneak peek at our members' practices and find out a little bit more about the types of businesses that our members are running. And we've got over 3,500 bookkeepers who are members of ICB who are running their own businesses, all in their own unique way. And there are definitely many different versions of success in this business. So let's find out a little bit more about Lynn. What kind of business are you running? Can you tell us about your practice? What's it called? How many clients have you got?
So I've got a small practice in Romford. We've got a team of 5, including myself. So my son's been working with me part-time, but now that he's 16 and he's left school, he's actually full-time. So wow. My son and I are full-time working. I've got 2 part-qualified bookkeepers working remotely most of the time as well. And I've got a lady who is my friend. She used to work with me as a Weight Watchers coach. She's 72 and her job is to come to the office and she turns the records that we get given and our post into like digital information for us. So.
Wow, 72. So do you think there's an upper limit on the age you can be to be a bookkeeper?
No, she's not actually the bookkeeper, but she's actually, you know, she assesses if it's a sales invoice or a purchase invoice, and then she knows how to deal with it. She identifies the tax code, so she never knows if it's PAYE or corporation tax. Her name's Barbara, in case you joined in, and she's been to the summit with us as well.
So, oh, did she?
Yeah, she came to the summit for one day last time. We had one. So
Barbara, already more of a bookkeeper than I probably will ever be. 72, who's counting? No restriction there. How many clients have you got, if you don't mind us saying? What kind of size is your practice?
I've got around 90 clients that we do bookkeeping for, and around another 90 to 100 sort of tax return clients.
Yikes. And do you think, and just sort of quickly, do you think you could run that kind of business without using something like AutoEntry?
I think that we got a lot more freedom from using AutoEntry, so it actually gave us the opportunity to work with better clients.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we have grown, but we've grown in turnover as well as client base, so that was good for us. And percentages are good.
So this is actually why we invited Lynn on, because I met Lynn at last year's Bookkeeper Summit in 2019, and you kind of blew my mind a little bit, and you just said that did you say you doubled your turnover, or was it?
I did, yeah, between sort of 17 and 18 and 19, it's doubled, yeah.
Wow. And you said there were 3 reasons. Apologies if I've told you this story before and you're watching, because I talk about it all the time. And you said the 3, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, the 3 reasons were coming to the Bookkeeper Summit, starting to use AutoEntry and the changes that came about with MTD, is that right?
Yeah, they definitely were the kickstart to making everything so different, so much better. I could never have done all this if I didn't have things like AutoEntry and online bookkeeping. I could never be considering coming out here. I'd be considering hand warmers.
Because you don't like the cold, do you? So hence why the move to Italy. Wonderful. Okay. Well, Ellie Appleby, this is TMI probably, but I was doing Ellie Appleby's practice license application when I went into labour with my second child. So your business is exactly, well, pretty much 3.5 years old, the same age as my little Amber. What have you been up to? What's the practice called, and what kind of size is your practice?
Yeah, so we are called My Books Online. And we are completely cloud-based, so clues in the name. We are actually a similar size to Lynn, so we've got, there are 5 of us as well, so there's me and 3 other full-time bookkeepers and a part-time bookkeeper as well. Everything is cloud-based, so we don't do anything in person at all. All of my recruitment was remote, was done online, and everybody works where they live. So we're kind of spread all around the country, and we work predominantly, well, we work with lots of different types of clients, but we work with an awful lot of businesses that are in the property industry. So whether it's landlords, letting agents, people doing little bits of construction or project management, that kind of thing, or who train people on how to become a property investor and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's busy. I have to say, I've slightly lost count because things got really busy over lockdown, particularly, childcare juggling at the same time as the business getting really busy. But I think we've probably got about 110, 20-ish clients, somewhere around that. And we don't do any year-end tax returns or anything like that. So they're all sort of monthly bookkeeping type clients. They keep us busy month to month, that's for sure.
Lovely. And you do this at the same time as looking after your young toddler.
Yeah, 1.5-year-old. And then my husband and I, so one of the reasons we got into, a lot of my clients are property investors is because we have a little bit of a property investment business as well. So we try and do that on the side, and then this, and it all ties together quite well, but it keeps me out of trouble most of the time. Anyway.
Lots of strings to the bow of the average bookkeeper. You mentioned Weight Watchers, Lynn.
Oh yes.
Weight Watchers story?
So in 2013, December 2013, I went to Weight Watchers and I lost 8 stone, and I kept it off. I still keep it off, and I just recently resigned as a Weight Watchers coach, but I've been a Weight Watchers coach for almost 5 years.
Wow. So that's the weight of a small person, isn't it? Really?
It was actually the weight of my son. He was 10 years old and he weighed the same amount of weight as I'd lost when I went for my interview, because when you go for a Weight Watchers interview, they want you to give your weight loss story so that they can see if you can inspire members. So that was one of the things that I said, that it looked like a 10-year-old boy to me. Imagine carrying all that weight though.
Incredible. I would imagine that probably does give you the feeling that you can do anything, such as run a team of 5 and have so many clients. So so you did tell us a little bit about the impact on your business of AutoEntry. So what was it actually going to the Bookkeepers Summit that made you think about using AutoEntry?
Well, I'd been to the summit for a couple of years, well, probably about 5 years. So when I went, it was like an eye-opening experience, because I'd not been for so long. There were so many developments that I was unaware of, that it was actually, I actually felt like if I hadn't have gone, I would have been a little dinosaur bookkeeping company that I'm not now, but it gave me the opportunity to change. So I didn't realise there was anything different going on.
Fantastic. So if you're out there worrying that you might be becoming a dinosaur business, or maybe just feeling a little bit in the dark, a little bit alone, perhaps isolated, totally normal, come to the Bookkeepers Summit. So this year it is going to be entirely virtual. So you can join in the Bookkeepers Summit from the comfort of your own home, your desk, your new villa in Italy, wherever you may be. But we are still going to have that as much as possible have that amazing Bookkeeper Summit feel. And we are going to try and blow your minds, show you the future, and connect you with all of the fantastic people in this community. So Ellie Appleby, you actually appeared on a webinar together with Receipt Bank that was run for ICB. And I remember something that I found quite interesting was your sort of onboarding process. So you're obviously using Receipt Bank. To what extent do you manage to get your clients to use it and even love it?
100% of our clients use it. It's just part of what we do. And because everything's electronic and because everything is virtual and because our clients are at a distance, they have to get the information to us somehow, and it's no good posting it to us because I'll just send it back. I'm in the post, it just doesn't work that way. So it's a really, really straightforward way of doing it, is where we express to people when we start working with them, this is the way that our system works. It works really well. There are some people who at the outset we have the conversation and we appreciate that it's not quite their bag. There are some people who like the paperwork, or who perhaps need a bookkeeper who's going to come and sit next to them, in which case we're very happy to refer them on if that's what the client needs. But for those who are kind of up to speed and using technology in the rest of their life, this is what they almost expect nowadays. So yeah, we explain to them that this is our system and it's part of the process. We need the information from you. This is how you send it to us. We get you set up. We make sure they're trained on it and they understand how to use it. It's not hard, but make sure that they're comfortable, and then it's a done deal, really. So yeah, across the board, it makes it so much easier for us that everything's consistent, and them, because there's just kind of one product that they have to use. Open their phone, take a quick snap, job done.
I love it. Very convincing. Do they also access the bookkeeping software as well, or do they not get involved with that?
It depends on the client. So we like to encourage them as much as possible to tune into their figures and what the figures are saying about their business, so that they've got a handle on things. But some of them much prefer that approach. La, 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 la. Just as long as somebody's handling it, they're not really interested. So they will all be able to access things through the accounting software. So we predominantly use Xero. So everything gets moved across from Receipt Bank. It's processed in Receipt Bank, moved across, pops into Xero, and then they can access it all through there. So they've got their profit and loss reports and their balance sheet and anything else that they want to see. Yeah, it just depends how engaged with it they want to be. But the scope is there for them to be not engaged at all, or all over the figures, and every detail is up to them.
So they can get in tune with their figures. I love that. So does that mean you don't have any of these, the sort of archetypal plastic bag of receipts then? No. Nothing gets posted?
No, nothing gets posted at all. We like, obviously they can find out our registered office address, but our registered office address isn't actually where anybody is based. So if they send stuff there, I just get a notification and it just pops on back to them. Our equivalent of a bag of receipts is that they might, depending on how happy they are with the electronic sharing, it might be that they pop stuff in a Google Drive for us if they've got an accumulation of things. And if we're working with them and they've been keeping track of stuff electronically for 9 months, but they didn't know what to do with it, they might have already got stuff in a folder. So in that case, they'll share the Google Drive, or they'll share the Dropbox link with us, or they'll do a WeTransfer or something like that. We'll pick up the files from there. If they literally have a plastic bag at home, we suggest that they make themselves a cup of tea and get a biscuit, or get themselves a nice glass of vino on a Friday evening in front of the telly, and they just get their app out and they just do them. You can get through them really quite quickly. So we help them find a window where they can get that done and it be as pain-free for them as possible. But yeah, that's how we're set up. That's how we've structured our pricing as well. So we know what we're dealing with, and there's less unknown from our side because we know what format we're going to get it in. So we can price effectively because we know what's going to be involved with it.
Wow, you make it all seem so slick and straightforward. Lynn, from your perspective, does it go like that? Are all the clients compliant, as it were?
No, not in our practice, but I think like I got my practice license around 2005, 2006. So a lot of the clients that we've had from that time, and like including the transition of the business from being sort of a little bit dinosaur to adopting the technology only a few years ago. So a lot of our clients are still used to turning up with their bags of paperwork. So we've just found a way of dealing with it for them. You know, they get charged for it, but there's no, you know, they've got the benefit of they haven't got to change, and we've got the benefit, we've got all the technology, and it doesn't take us long. So it works for us. And you know, there are a lot of our clients that we transition onto the software, but only the ones that we think we can trust to deal with it well. Even my boyfriend's the test case. He's a technophobe, but yeah, we use him as a test case on most things. And
because yeah, your 16-year-old son probably could just pick up any old tool that, you know, straight away.
Yeah. Yeah, and he has to. He's really good though. He can find out there's something didn't get published. I haven't got my son's right on that one, and he's really, you know, like he can see from just scanning it that there's something not gone through. So it's quite effective.
You need an eagle eye, don't you? So how does that work then? So do your clients then post receipts to you, or do you kind of go and get them, or they email them to you, or how does that work?
Well, I have a selection of methods. So we've got a massive, great big letterbox set up from our office that I had put in when we moved in. So there's people that drop things off all through the night. So that keeps Barbara busy when she comes in. Then on top of that, there's a few people that I used to do a little round of. So I'd go and see them all once a month. So I'd do a little route one day, like a month, and go visit people. But then you're keeping the personal contact with them. But since COVID-19 and the lockdown started, now they just drop it back at my letterbox. So I still see some of them. I've got others that I, you know, introduce them to the app, and they take it, you know, they're all over Essex, and they take pictures for us, and that's working really well as well. So I've got a variety of ways that people send it to us. It all depends on what they need doing. So.
I love that. It sounds so flexible and customer focused. So how does it affect the cost of these tools? Are there different ways of playing it? Do you have to have, do your clients have to have their own subscription? What can you tell us?
We pay for the subscription ourselves, but we just include it in their fees. So we roughly know, you know, I've got one guy that's a wholesale butcher, and we'll get between 50 and 70 delivery notes every Monday morning that we then process into sales invoices and issue to his customers. So that's quite a quick job. But you know, like he used to have his bookkeeper type it manually into Sage, and she had terrible eyesight. She was like this against the computer screen. So this makes everything so much easier for them. But yeah, that's simply, you know, that's really effective. And because we can scan 50 to 70 in a multi-feed document feeder, it takes us about 3 to 5 minutes to scan everything. Then you send it to AutoEntry, and you come back up like a little bit later, and it's already processed, and you can just start sending it out.
Fantastic. Somebody's actually asked a question of Ellie. Nicola wants to know if you get your clients uploading statements and invoices that you can't read because they're at funny angles or they're out of focus.
On occasion we do. We find that that's kind of a training thing. So with Receipt Bank, you can always preview it before you submit it. So we encourage them to check that before they hit the submit button. But one of the features that we make use of loads is there's a kind of an inbuilt messenger function within the Receipt Bank app. So you can be in an item. So if you click into an item and it is blurry, or they've missed the amount off the bottom, like the total or the date or something, which does happen much more than you would anticipate, you can use the messenger to ping people a message, and it'll pop up on their phone like a WhatsApp or an iMessage or something like that, and when they select it, it takes them straight into that item, and they can see your question going, please would you take this photo again because it's blurry, or I can't read it, or whatever. So immediately they can see what it is you're asking about. You don't have to send them an email describing the statement and the receipt and which shop it was from and what date it was from. They've immediately got the picture of exactly what it is you need, and then they can resubmit it. But yeah, we find that if people do that quite a lot to begin with, it tends to tail off because they know that we're going to ask them to do it again. So they just do it right the first time because it makes life easier for them rather than like more than anything else. So yeah, just a training thing, and just try and keep reinforcing it with them.
That sounds like a really handy feature, having a sort of dedicated chat on the app.
So in AutoEntry, they've got a rejects folder. So anything that's come through as unclear and things like that, you can move it back into the inbox, so you can expand it, like zoom in and try and work it out yourself, or you can just download a PDF and email it back to them and say, like, I can't see what this is exactly, or you've missed the date off the bottom. So it's quite easy to send that data back to the client as well.
Fantastic. And hopefully not, still make them feel valued, even if they do something silly. Probably that's a key skill for a bookkeeper anyway, I would think. So favourite features, Lynn, have you got any favourite features of AutoEntry?
Well, I love the fact that it's so easy to scan everything, and that you can get clients that are not very technological just to take a picture of things. So that's good. I mean, I like the zooming in feature as well. So if the things are unclear, you can zoom in and try and work it out yourself. I like the fact that we've got auto publish, so you can set up roles. Rules is another feature, but you can set up information for different suppliers, and it will keep sending. So I've got one client that uses Sage, but I've set all his rules up in his email, so his invoices come through his emails and follow my rules and go into AutoEntry, and then I get a notification that the rule has been followed, the publishing's been done, and it's already in Sage for me. So I don't actually have to lift a finger. I set it all up. I set the email rules up as well, so I don't have to scroll through them all and find them for him.
Yes, that's quite cool. I think Receipt Bank does that too. Is that right? So the client can just send an email, I could like forward any invoices to a certain email address.
Yeah, exactly. So if there are suppliers that a client uses on a regular basis, you can set it up so that it's kind of pre-filled with what you anticipate it's going to be, and then you can check it. Or if you're comfortable and confident that whatever comes through from that supplier is always going to be exactly the same thing and coded in exactly the same way, you can do the same thing and get it to auto publish. So as soon as Receipt Bank receives that document, it sends it to the accounting software straight away. I have to say, I think this is the obsessive compulsive in me. I hardly have anything set to auto publish because I just like to check. I know that when I go in, it'll probably be right, but I just like to be sure. But I know there are lots of people who do kind of make massive time savings by, it depends on the client as well, I think, as to what suppliers they use on a regular basis. But yeah, you can make huge time savings by setting it up to do a lot of the work for you, so that by the time you're popping in, either it's published it or it's already pre-filled pretty much everything, and all you're doing is checking and saying publish.
Lovely.
My son actually loves to scan the receipts himself because he thinks he gets a better insight into what the client's activities are that month, that quarter. So he likes that, but I quite like the fact that it's all done for me and that I get to see the changes when I do the review work in Xero. So yeah,
He sounds like a keeper. This he sounds like a keeper.
I'm trying to get him to a summit or something, or to a branch meeting. So
let's get into the Bookkeeper Summit. There's no excuse not to go this year, I would say to everybody. Bring your sons, bring your partners, bring your 72-year-old staff.
Okay.
No upgrade limit. Actually, let's give a prize to the oldest and the youngest people at the summit this year, and maybe we can gamify it. We can all have a bet on who will be the youngest.
Bring my toddler and he can cause chaos for you all, and then
I think you officially have to be in a related role.
Shucks.
I think my kids are not doing anything useful to help me do any work, except they are not doing it. So what about multi-line, do you call it multi-line items? What if there's different VAT rates on different parts of the invoice? Are there sort of complicated sticky things that your software handles very well, Ellie, would you say?
Yeah, I think so. To be honest, I've not found anything that Receipt Bank couldn't handle yet.
Oh, wow.
But
Well
maybe I've just not got exciting enough clients. Who knows? But it's always done the job. So yeah, you can break things down into multiple different lines, which are coded to different account codes with different VAT rates, allocated to different projects. So like in Xero, it's tracking codes. So if you're splitting stuff out like that, you can set all that up in Receipt Bank as well and add notes in. You can also add notes that are going to go through to a description in your accounting software, but you can also add notes in another section, which can be internal ones. So if you have a team and someone isn't quite sure what to do with something, you can kind of put some notes in as to who's processed what, or what the discussion is, or if you've got something that's really complicated for VAT, you can put a little note in there as to why you've ended up treating it the way you've treated it, so that you've got that. Once it's archived, it will always be there for you to look back at and check if you need to. You mentioned before, you were asking Lynn about favourite features of AutoEntry. I was just going to jump on and say, in terms of Receipt Bank, that item messaging one is massive for us, because it saves us shed loads of time, and it means that you're not having that whole conversation through email, which I don't know about anybody else, but my inbox fills up faster than I don't know what. So being able to keep that out of my inbox is really, really helpful.
Were you nodding away there, Lynn? Do you think,
that sounds like a fantastic tool. Yeah, because I send it by email, because I download it and send it by email, but that does sound like a really good tool.
Testing AutoEntry. Just add that feature on.
Just give them a prod.
I will.
One of the other things that I really like is that, as well as being able to take the picture or send an email of an invoice in, you can also get the information into the system in a couple of different ways. So you can either upload directly from your computer or share a Dropbox file or something like that to import in bulk if you've already got those documents. Or they've got a functionality called Fetch as well. Now we have some brilliant successes with this, and we have some where the kinks haven't quite been worked out yet, which I think in part is due to the fact that some of our clients have multiple accounts with one supplier and it confuses it. But essentially, Fetch enables the client to set up Receipt Bank to talk to its supplier directly. So say your client works with Virgin Media Business for their internet. Instead of the client receiving the email saying that their bill is ready and having to go to Virgin Media to log in to download their bill to then send it to Receipt Bank will essentially go and collect the bill from the supplier directly and then bring it into the system. So it can save the client that extra bit of work, or you, if you're the person that is supposed to be doing that. Like I say, a little bit hit and miss in places, but when it works, brilliant.
AutoEntry has got a similar feature. They've got bill fetch and document fetching. So, like, to be fair, I think because it was a Canadian company to start off with, there were some companies that weren't necessarily all on their list over here. But yeah, I've used it a few times. But Xero also give us HubDoc for free with partnership plans, so I use that on the ones that give us the account details to log in for. I use the Xero HubDoc version as well. So.
And are there kind of measurable differences between them? Because obviously HubDoc, like you say, free as part of Xero now.
I still prefer AutoEntry because it does the auto publish for me and it finds duplicates. So I haven't noticed the same benefit in HubDoc yet, but in definitely in AutoEntry, it gives you like, so this has already been entered into Xero. Do you want to it gives you like 2 or 3 options. Do you want to just add the PDF document to your original transaction? Do you want to ignore it, or do you want to put a duplicate in? So it does give you options.
I've also heard rumours that the paid for tools like AutoEntry and Receipt Bank tend to be more accurate than some of the more integrated sort of proprietary systems, but I suppose they've been around a lot longer, so they've perhaps got a bit more practice. Don't know if you've noticed that.
I've heard similar things. I have to say, we've not done extensive testing of HubDoc. We've experienced the same thing around like duplicates and stuff. But yes, I've heard similar things. So we're sticking with Receipt Bank for the time being, but we've always got an eye out on what else is happening in the market.
Well, helpfully, Michael Stockford has mentioned that AutoEntry and I believe Receipt Bank as well both do supplier and bank statements, unlike HubDoc, which doesn't. But also, we should also mention that QuickBooks now has QuickBooks Capture. I nearly forgot it. QuickBooks Capture, I believe it's called, which does the same thing essentially. So it's got its own form of data capture. Again, possibly with slightly reduced functionality at the moment, but it is a very new tool. Sylvia Borhill, who was on last week talking about QuickBooks, says that she loves in capital letters the bank statement conversion on AutoEntry. Yay! And also a yay to QuickBooks. So are either are you using QuickBooks then, Lynn, as well as saying?
No, I use the AutoEntry for the bank conversions.
Oh,
it is really good. Like some of our clients are on VT because not everybody needed MTD compliant software. So a lot of our clients are originally on things like VT, but just that will come out as a CSV that I can just copy and paste straight into it. So it's really good. I love it.
I have to say, I've used the AutoEntry bank extraction as well. It was before Receipt Bank did their version, but the AutoEntry thing, it worked a dream. You send your PDF statement and it turns it into a CSV that you can then put into your accounting software, and it just, oh yeah,
it's very good.
Yeah,
amazing.
Better than typing the whole thing out in Excel. Life's too short. It just does it for you. It's worth paying the money to get it done for you.
They charge you by credits at AutoEntry. So one page is roughly 45p. It's about 15p a credit. So they charge you for 3 credits on a bank statement. So the smart thing to do is to take out the cover sheets and things like that if you're scanning.
Ooh, so yes, so we have had a couple of questions on the chat and in the Q&A. Marie Phillips has asked, and also GSK148 has asked, what is it with the pricing? Quite different pricing models. As I understand it, AutoEntry, you pay for credits. Now the benefit of that is you can start small, and if you don't use up any credits, you can carry them over to the next month. And Receipt Bank, you pay a monthly subscription. Now, how do those actually compare? So you've both got relatively similar number of clients, in excess of 100. How much, do you mind saying how much you're paying for your respective tools? How much are you paying for AutoEntry on a monthly basis?
I, on average, buy 2,500 credits a month at £350. So
that is a sizable investment, if you don't mind me saying.
No, I don't mind, but then I get to use most of them. And it carries forward for 90 days. Any that I don't use up, I carry forward for can be carried forward. And you can pause your subscription at any time, because I made a mistake last month and I bought 2 months worth at once because I thought I hadn't processed it properly. So I'm not going to renew again until the 11th of September because I put a pause on the month.
Wow. So, okay, and how does that compare to what your usage, your payment, Ellie?
Yeah, it's not dissimilar actually. So I'm on kind of like an old school Receipt Bank pricing product combination, but essentially the equivalent is, it's a bit complicated. I'm just talking with my account manager now actually about moving over to the new system. So the new version that I'd be on is $399 plus VAT for most of what I'm getting now, with a little bit less, but some other features added on. And then the top level pricing, I think, is $599 plus VAT. And that's really good. That comes into its own when you've got kind of a bigger practice and a bigger team, because you start to get dashboards with lots of summary information, how many items are being processed, what's outstanding, what's ready to go, what's not, what needs attention, all that kind of stuff.
That sounds exciting to me.
Yeah, you get lots of metrics around it. So that's essentially then unlimited. So it doesn't, there's nothing above that. So no matter how much you use, how many clients you have, that's it.
So do you think, sorry to interrupt, do you think there's a point at which then, if you're a relatively small practice, you might be better off with the auto entry billing method of using these credits, and then just doing sort of on a per document basis, and then a point at which they're probably price comparable?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I did compare the prices, and auto entry still worked out cheaper for my numbers at the time. But yeah, there was definitely a level of transactions being processed where it would work out that Receipt Bank would be better. But because I love the auto entry and the clients are used to it and they trust us, there's a bigger decision just whether or not on price, you know, as how easy it would be to change everything and what the benefits would be overall for the clients and the staff.
I mean, there is a lower subscription for Receipt Bank as well, I think, and please don't quote me on all these things because I'm not a Receipt Bank salesperson. I think there's one at $199 plus VAT as well. I don't know quite what functionality that has, but I know that they do have products there for potentially the smaller, newer practices. There is also another alternative whereby if you're not there yet, I think you can set it up so that even though your clients fall under your practice, they are paying for their subscriptions directly. So if a business outright pays for Receipt Bank, it's £10 plus VAT for 50 transactions a month and one user, and then it goes up to £20 plus VAT for more than 50 transactions per month. It's like between 50 and 300 and up to 5 users. So if you'd got 10 clients who need 2 users, you're at £200 already, which would then, at that point, you could then take the basic Receipt Bank subscription, and anybody that you get more than that is essentially money for you, is your profit, because you're covering the bases. If that makes sense. Did I skip through that a bit quickly?
No, I think you explained that very well, but let me just check I've understood it. What you say is that if you're on the right package with Receipt Bank, you pay, and then your clients don't have to pay anything extra to be able to use it themselves.
Yes.
And is that true for auto entry as well then?
I'm sure I could make my clients pay for their subscription, but I normally just get them to pay for zero because I can't predict how many bits of paper my clients are going to scan or send to me. So I'm kind of in control of that. But yeah, I'll make sure they pay for their zero subscription as much as possible.
That's the difference between the per credit pricing and I suppose it makes it a little bit easier to do it that way with Receipt Bank because they've got 50 or 50 to 300. It's not a 27 this month, 32 next month. It just makes it that bit easier because it's either one thing or it's the other.
I'm just paying for bulk credits. So and you can see how many you've used up at any time you want to in your account. So it's quite helpful. And they give you an overage because you're on a repeat billing system. If I use them up and I start going into an overdraft, they'll still honour that until my subscription renews, unless I reach the limit, which is about 5,000. So it hasn't happened to me yet.
I suppose psychologically it's quite different. So I suppose it's if you're at the right level of clients for both to be relatively sort of value comparable, then maybe it's a case of whether you want to know that you're only paying for what you use, or whether you prefer to not have to take out the front sheet to make sure that you're not getting charged for that extra piece of document. And then you just know what you're going to pay every month. It
was a big decision I made early on, actually, because I was losing money to start with on it. I took a punt that I was going to grow as a business and that it would end up paying for itself. So I committed early, and then it's come back to pay dividends in the long run. It was a little bit of a leap of faith at the beginning, but one now that was absolutely worth doing. It just depends whether you're in a position to be able to accommodate that, I suppose. And, you can have conversations with Receipt Bank. Sometimes, as with most accounting type software providers, I think sometimes they run deals. Sometimes they can appreciate if you're a startup business with on your own, there might be different packages and structures that they can offer you. I don't know. It was a long time ago when I did mine, but it never hurts to ask, because if you don't ask, you might not get. But if you do ask, you never know.
Yeah, I think that really rings true. We've certainly seen that in our past software sessions here. Yeah, definitely ask, make friends, be very, I was going to say pushy, but I don't know if that's the right word.
Proactive.
Persist. Be
Yes.
proactive. Something beginning with P. Don't be afraid to ask. Somebody has asked about having a multi-user receipt bank license. Do you have to add on other users within your practice? You're obviously both a 5-person team. Does that cost you extra?
No.
Yeah. So it depends on whether they're asking multi-user from a customer perspective or multi-user from a practice perspective. So if a business is paying for their own receipt bank, if they want more than one user, it does bump it up to that second level of subscription. But from a practice perspective, and this is where things are a bit confusing with my practice, because the old system from years ago, but I believe now that it's just, that is the fee. So whether there's 1 of you or 10 of you, I don't know, and then you just add your team. But again, check with Receipt Bank on that one, I'm afraid. Pricing's not my hotspot. How you use it, all over that. All the different pricing packages, not my strength.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to usage then. Do they help you learn how to use their tool? I know that there's a lot of talk about onboarding and engagement. Are they actually helping you to use it and make it be valuable to your practice? And what can you tell us about that, Lynn?
Okay, so I first met Brian Carolan at the ICB, and he absolutely did the most brilliant demonstration. And then Terry in my office is really not fond of change. I think that's a nice way of putting it. She doesn't like change. She's not up for it very quickly. So I sent her to have a look at the demo as well, and she came back with a smile on her face. So I knew it was a winner from that perspective. And they've always been really, like, if you want to do one-to-one webinars where they'll give you specific guidance, like, you can request those, but they've got a whole selection of training videos, all 1-2 minutes long on their website. So you can really, you can send a link to your clients if they're struggling with things as well, so that they can learn how to do it really quickly. It's a really good system. And they've got the little chat box on the bottom, so anytime you've got a question with something, they help you. And yeah, I'm sure that Receipt Bank do it as well, but I've definitely not had any problems that they haven't helped me with. I've had hardly any problems as well.
Yeah, very similar story with Receipt Bank, really, is if you're not already using it and you're interested in using it, they'll absolutely happily do a demo, because that's what they're there to do, sell you the product. So they'll very happily go through it all with you. Once you're using it, I think the help is there. So they do webinars and things like that. They've got a YouTube channel with shed loads of video, and they've got help pages. The support is really good. Like you were saying, Lynn, if you get on the chat and ask a specific question, they come back to you really quickly with answers. I sometimes find their help pages a little bit tricky to navigate, but if there's a challenge, like if there's a problem that I've come up against that I can't find an answer, I just ping them a message and they get straight back to me. Yeah, it's fab. And I think the other thing is that if there is ever anything that you are stuck on, you just reach out. If you're set up as a practice, you will have an account manager, so you just ring them and ask them for help. I think I've spoken to my account manager 3 weeks out of the last 4 on different things. We've got another call booked in next week, she'll be sick of me, about different things and where things are going. And the Receipt Bank's made a couple of acquisitions recently with Xavier and Futurely, so there's all kinds of stuff happening around that. So I'm on it.
I didn't know that. I did hear about the Xavier acquisition. Are you using either of those tools, Xavier?
I'm just about to start using Xavier. I've been I started my 28-day free trial in June, and I haven't had a chance to go on it yet because things have been nuts. But yes, I'm very much anticipating using Xavier, and then Futurely may follow, but Xavier first.
I would love to try and get Xavier at the Bookkeepers Summit, actually, in mid-November, because we've not had them before. They're a relatively new tool. And last year I spoke to them, and there was like 4 of them, and they were like, to be honest, I don't think we could handle the calls we'll get afterwards. So I was like, okay, well, great. Let's put you over 2020. What can you tell us about Xavier? Do you know anything about it?
It's Xavier at the moment only connects with Xero, but we'll be connecting with QuickBooks from, I think, Q1 next year, they've been saying. And it basically collects shed loads of data from Xero and lets you use it to your advantage and your client's advantage. So it will look at what's in Xero at the moment and give you a health score and flag up loads of things that you may want to give attention to. So things like, are there duplicate contacts that are very similar to each other? Are there transactions that, like, 19 out of 20 of them have been processed in exactly the same way, and there's one that's been processed somewhere else? It will highlight that one for you so you can pick it up and check that it's been processed correctly, and then tell Xavier that it's been processed correctly. So it will essentially summarize a client's Xero account and highlight any bits that in theory need your attention or might need your attention to help you spot errors, make corrections. And it does so much more. So one of the factors in our pricing is around the number of transactions that we process, and it'll tot all those up for you. And I don't know if you know about Go Proposal, the proposal building software tool. Xavier and Proposal are connecting together so that you can re-quote people based on actually what's gone through their Xero account and how accurate that. Oh yeah, it's all very clever. I think it has tremendous power to help you look at what's going on in your clients' books and really get a deep understanding of what's in there.
It's got quite a funky website as well. I've just popped that in the chat because I'm sorry to Zoe. She's like, who's Xavier? And then I spelt it wrong. It's Xavier with an X. XavierAnalytics.com is the website. That sounds pretty cool, Lynn. Sort of
it does.
build people based on the work you're actually doing automatically, to a certain extent. Have you looked into Xavier? Have you got any kind of cool add-ons that are on your sort of roadmap or in your...
I'm getting a little bit more involved in Fluidly at the moment, so I do like that. But it's a case of building up the right, time to... Everything you learn, there's something new to do, isn't there? And then you've got to try and not only have you got to get good at it, you've got to sell it as well. So yeah. It's a little challenge that I'm building up on.
That is so true. I mean, that really rung true for me. I don't know if anyone has felt the same thing. Of when Ellie said that she started a month's free trial over a month ago, and I'm like, I know that I've had an email just this morning from somebody saying, so how did it go with your free trial? I'm like, oh, completely forgot about that. It's a busy time, isn't it? So, is the sky the limit? I think you've raised a really good point there, Lynn, that you need to learn how to use it. Then you need to be able to resell it to your client. And actually, essentially what you're working with is a like souped up Excel spreadsheet that you've got to pay for every single one of its functions, because there's always a new tool that's springing up to do this, to do something better. Do either of you have a sort of process for assessing whether a tool is worth taking the risk for? You're bookkeepers. I always imagine you're very organised. Were you going to say something there, Lynn?
I tried it out on a couple of needy clients, to be fair, and then as a curiosity to myself. And then if I can see how I can make a benefit out of it to them that is valuable enough for them to want to pay for, then I would think about unveiling it as a sort of add-on service. But I need to sort of make sure it works with the things that I'm already providing before it's worth my time investing in it, like wholesale.
I like that though, but still coming at it from the sort of the customer's perspective. Is it something that could be useful to them, and obviously would they pay for it? Ellie, do you have a kind of process?
Not a defined process as such, but for me it kind of falls into 2 different camps. There's the external benefit to client, like you were saying, Lynn, where you have to assess whether what it's going to be costing you will be less than how the client is going to value it and what value it's going to bring to the client. We don't price on time, so I suppose it might be a slightly different equation for someone who is on time-based billing. But yeah, if the value outweighs the cost to us, then that's definitely something that we would look at. And I think Lynn's right. I think you test the water. You maybe work with a couple of clients who you think it would work for, you trial it for them, maybe for free or heavily discounted. If they like it, then you introduce it more broadly. The other camp is the internal stuff. So something like Xavier, the client may or may not interact with, depending on how you want to use it. So for me, the final assessment I'll be doing on that, because I'm all excited with what potential it will have, but fundamentally, until I get into it and I test it properly, I want to see what time it's going to save my team through jobs that they're already doing that this will automate for them, and how much time and resource and energy that will save for them, and then whether there's any extra value that it can add on the top. And if those two things combined make the sums add up in terms of how much it's going to cost us to use, then that's how I'd make that decision.
Yeah. I'm interested in seeing what that Xavier can do as well, so we'll have a little look at that.
All right, let's get them at the summit.
Later down the line. I've got to get the Fluidly up and running first.
One thing at a time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Ellie, you're using Futurely, did you say, which is another cash flow?
Yeah, so I'm not using that one yet, but Receipt Bank has recently acquired Futurely. So yeah, I was just intrigued to know how that offering was going to work, if there's a partnership. I think at the moment, actually, they're still essentially separate products. It's just that Receipt Bank owns Futurely rather than anybody else owning it. But
well, you heard it here first. I'm going to get my knuckles wrapped for not knowing that. So somebody actually did mention, Peter Hamilton just wondered if there might be an issue going forwards with AutoEntry being owned by Sage. As far as I know, absolutely not, because AutoEntry, since that acquisition, built its integration with Free Agent, for example. So I think that's part of the deal, is they can be bookkeeping software agnostic and can be used across all tools. Whether or not you get a discount if you use Sage, you'd hope, wouldn't you? Do you guys know, are the integrations different? So it's like, if you're using two types of bookkeeping software, is the integration different if you're using Sage versus QuickBooks, for example, with something like AutoEntry or Receipt Bank? Or do you basically, all the features are the same and it works as smoothly?
So in AutoEntry, the processing platform for the documents itself is always the same, but it will pick up the different code names or the nominal code numbers that Sage uses through the integration feature. So my processing task is the same.
It's the same. It's clearly joyous. Oh, also in terms of hardware, you did mention you've got some cool scanner. Does anybody recommend a particular kind of scanner if you are doing anything yourself?
We had one that worked with an old virtual filing system that we bought, a Fujitsu multi-feed thing. It's really fast. So we still link that up to our server, and we just scan through the documents on that. It's quite handy.
Do you have calls for scanning, Ellie, or is it all done? No scanning here, although the name that I see plastered all over forums that I'm in is ScanSnap. People seem impressed by the ScanSnap. So I've heard that, and I've heard that it's very good, but yeah, we've never used one, never had need for one. But if I did, I think that's where I'd be looking first, because I just see it everywhere.
I see that everywhere too. So Heather Palmer and Zoe Rhymes have just popped that into the chat. Now, Heather Palmer asked a question earlier, which I didn't get around to. This is a sort of technical question. I have clients who take advantage of a 2.5% discount on early settlement, brackets suppliers discount, quite standard, that sounds kind of normal. Is there a way of processing these invoices in either AutoEntry or Receipt Bank? I haven't worked out how to do it other than manually. Manual.
That's a really good question, and I haven't come across it. My clients don't get that sort of discount offered to them at the moment, but I'd be tempted to put it in the chat box and find out. Does she want me to do it now?
My answer would essentially be exactly the same, because none of our clients ever get supplier discount either, poor things. So I would think
yes, by the way, do ask away.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, we can ask Receipt Bank the same thing if you like. I will not be multitasking, trying to talk and type at the same time. That will not end well for anybody. But I can always ask afterwards and come back via Amy to let you know what the result is. It potentially might be something that you can do in the line items. So you set up a supplier rule if you know that that supplier offers a potential discount, and you put a line item in that you can either leave in or take out, depending on whether they get the discount or not. That might be one way of approaching it, but we can find out.
It does sound like a good option. I'm sure you could do that in AutoEntry as well.
That's a good option, and if it helps people pay sooner, that's probably a good thing, isn't it? Julia Reben, while we're waiting for that, I don't know if AutoEntry will make it in time, but Julia Reben is asking, she says she'd predominantly like to use one of the options to help add sales invoices to zero. From an external system, but she uses billable items in Xero extensively, and she's never found either AutoEntry or Receipt Bank any help because she needs to allocate the sales items against billable items. Is she missing anything? Does anybody know?
Oh.
In terms of, so when she says billable items, she means you're matching the invoice with an expense that's already been incurred. Is that what she's meaning, just to make sure I'm understanding the question correctly?
Are you still there, Julia?
I've never found.
It's in the Q&A. Yes, that's it, she says.
Okay. That's a really interesting one, and one that I don't know specifically. So you're trying to have sales invoices within Receipt Bank that you code to an expense code? What were you asking?
Or would you add the expense onto the bill and then send it?
Yeah, if you can spell out specifically line by line what you are trying to achieve, I'm sure we can find a way, or Receipt Bank can help us find a way of.
I'm sure you could send the billable expense through to the sales invoice in Xero, but I don't know why you raise the sales invoice in a different system and then add the expense to it.
It'd be nice if we get Julia Reben on to share her camera with us. I know that we've never done this before, but I know it is a function that we can take advantage of. Don't know if you fancy doing that, Julia, or if not, what you can do, we can try and figure. Yes, okay. She's. Julia Reben, do you know how to raise your hand? I don't know how to type to raise your hand.
There's an option for that somewhere. I remember doing it.
Oh, she's raised her hand. Iris, are you still there on behind the admin panel? I think if you go up to the top of the participants panel, please bear with me, guys. Hope you don't mind. If you go up to the top of the participants panel, you'll be able to see. That Julia's raised her hand. Oh, here we go. I can allow you to talk myself. Great. Okay, Julia, I'm going to see if I can allow you to talk.
Welcome to
promote you to a panelist. Here we go. I have asked her. You are okay with this, Julia? You can always not share your screen or your camera or your.
I'm very happy to chat it through after the call if you prefer. Like, you can always. I'm sure we can work out where you can get my number, and we'll just have a play until we see if we can make it work.
I'm just trying to sort of show off the Zoom functions here. Are you able? Iris, are you there? Can you unmute her? I know she's gone.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh. Are you able to unmute Julia? Whenever she next comes up, she should come up at the top.
Unmute her, yes.
I just got a message to say she is going to join us as a panelist, but whether or not it's going to work, I don't know. You know, once we've figured out how to do this, there's nothing to stop us doing it in the future.
Promote to panelist?
Promote to panelist, see if it works. Who knows? It'd be nice to get an answer, wouldn't it? Because it does seem like a bit of a tricky question.
Yeah.
It says Julia will rejoin as panelist. Here we go.
Okay, can you unmute her when you click on her little video square? Because I can't seem to do it.
I really hope we can actually help with this question now.
It would be so nice, wouldn't it, Julia? Oh, Julia. Are you there? You've been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Julia.
Sorry, I have a terrible internet connection. Too many people trying to work from home.
That's fantastic. I'm sorry to do this as a live experiment, live on air.
That's okay.
Thank you so much for joining us. What was your question?
So basically, my client is an IT supplier. So they use a separate system to manage all of their agreements with their clients for all of the various services they offer. So that's why my sales invoices are created in a different software and have to be imported into Xero.
Okay, and then when they're imported into Xero, then how do the expenses come into the sales invoice question?
Maybe your internet is too bad to answer that bit. We can't hear you, unfortunately, Julia. Oh, it was so good for a while, wasn't it?
We now know one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Okay. She's on and off again. Well, I was just wondering, sort of to sum up, would you be able to tell me, just Ellie, you know, how easy do you think it is to start using something like AutoEntry or Receipt Bank in your practice? And how successful do you think you can be if you don't use it? Are we getting to the point where this is sort of an essential piece of software?
Oh, that's a good question. What's your first bit? How easy is it? I think it depends on your practice and where you're coming from. So I think actually we had a huge advantage in that my practice was started 3.5 years ago. Cloud was out there. So everything was set up from day one with cloud in mind. All of the systems integrate, they talk to each other. It's all, you know, it all works quite nicely. And so it made it very easy for us to adopt something like Receipt Bank because it just fitted in very nicely with the system and we were starting from scratch. I think if you have an existing practice, it's perhaps a little bit trickier because you're working with clients who aren't used to that as a solution necessarily, and you're asking them to change, yourself to change, and your team, if you have one, to change. And people are often resistant to change at first. So you have to maybe work a little bit harder to bring people round and show them how it can benefit them and how it can serve them. But in terms of the software itself, if you can get to that point where you're having the conversation, there are so many benefits to being cloud-based and having stuff like this in place for everybody in the process that, unless they're really anti-technology, it shouldn't be too challenging. There'll always be the odd one who will put up a fight and kick and scream. And there will be some people who will never go to cloud. So I think it's, as the market changes, it's going to be easier to be successful if you are cloud-based and you're adopting these technologies because they save time, they help you be more consistent, they help you get better results, they help you spot errors. You know, the software is doing lots of the harder work. So I think it'll be easier to be successful with this technology. But I would never say never. I don't think you have to use lots of technology to be successful because there will always be clients who don't want technology, who don't like their information being stored elsewhere. Eventually some of them will have to get kicked and, you know, you have to drag them kicking and streaming with Making Tax Digital coming in and that applying more broadly over the next few years. So there will be fewer and fewer people who have an option about elements of it. But no, I think you can find ways, if you are creative enough and you are prepared to work hard, you can always find a way to be successful, whether you use a piece of technology or not.
I agree with everything you've said. It is definitely a challenge when you've got an existing practice. The change management is time consuming and a little bit, you know, that is definitely a bigger challenge than it's hidden. You can't, there's a cost to it that you can't even see. You've got to get people involved, you've got to convert them and the training time and everything. So there's that involvement. But once they're up for it, and you know, I'm quite enthusiastic about it, I think. But so it's easy for me to sell it to some people as not to sell financially, but to encourage them to use. but it's given me so much more freedom, obviously, so I can't knock it.
So are you you're planning to keep running your business from Italy?
Yes.
And
I'll probably work here for about 4 weeks at a time, then come back and visit everybody for 2 weeks, and then come back here again. So I'll still be heavily involved and using Zoom and WhatsApp on a daily basis. So
I think in many ways the whole COVID lockdown, obviously it's had a dreadful impact, but in many ways I don't think it could have happened at a better time, and I think it's really made us aware of how adaptable we are and how we really can use these digital tools to our advantage. Were you just going to say something there, Ellie?
I was just going to say the flexibility of being cloud-based. I mean, my husband used to travel with work. He worked in events stuff, so I'm not sure there's much of that happening in the foreseeable future. But I used to go with him because I could. So I worked for a couple of weeks in Canada and a few weeks in Australia and stuff. If you've got a laptop and you've got cloud technology, you can work wherever the heck you like. It doesn't matter. Be on completely the opposite side of the world, and none of your clients even know that you've gone. It's all on VoIP phone. It's WhatsApp or Messenger or email. It just makes it so easy.
Never been a better time to be a bookkeeper. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
definitely.
On that note, I would like to say a massive thank you to both Lynn Watson and Ellie Appleby. I think that's been totally fantastic. I hope you found it very useful. Please will you let me know what you want to cover next week? Because let's not stop now. Maybe we could look at fluidly and futurely, or even float fluidly and futurely at the same time.
And who are the bookkeeping experts on those products? I'd like to know.
Who are they? What can they tell us? How much of the work that we were going to do have they already done for us to save us the time? Thank you, Sylvia. You've suggested tax cut and tax filer. Now that's a good one too. Yeah, GSK148 says thank you very much. Susanna Whelan apparently enjoyed it as well. So thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining us. No matter where you are in the world, we've been together for this hour. Thank you for sticking with us, and thank you also for all of your chats and your questions. So we'll see you this time next week for some other tools. Thank you very much, Lynn. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.